What's up, spooky squids? I'm Quackers Co, and this is the fish fry for October 31st, being held at the spawning grounds. Our cookware composition is the N-Zap, the Inkbrush, the H-3 Nozzlenose, and the Hydra Splatling. Almost every single wall and floor on spawning grounds is paintable, and almost every single nook and cranny is useful for our mobility on this stage. That way we can get between these different platforms, so that way we can take out lessers before we get overrun. So we want to keep our mobility tight on the stage. Something I've started doing almost as a joke, it hurts my performance evaluation, but on the end of some of these waves, I'll start painting when there's like 10 seconds left. You never know what wall is going to be useful when you get in the mess of it. And it's helpful to start treating high tides and low tides just like any other known occurrence. Some specials can be really useful for them. If you're using inkjet, as soon as you're super jumping back to your launching spot, the Salmon will start targeting that location. So try to activate in a space that will give you a little bit more safety when you land. And with no walls here on high tide, make sure you use Salmon lids and fish sticks. Even on a high tide, I'd say almost every wall is helpful. As the saying goes, it's always good to have it and not need it, than need it and not have it. And on high tide, I'd say we'd need about as much... What the heck? What was I saying? It's good to know what specials work towards what occurrences. So on a high tide, Wave Breaker would definitely help out. And if you're in the gray area, always try to keep a tight focus on your escape strategy. Feeling trapped on high tide can be a bummer, so try to think of those creative ways of getting some extra space between you and those salmonids. A general tip for mudmouth rounds, as soon as you see a golden mudmouth, take it out before you're overrun with cohawks. And a visual clue for big shots during a fog, whenever their cannonball hits the ground, the cannonball has a trajectory from where it's launched, and it has some sparkles that can give you a clue on where the big shot is. And if you're not a fan of getting on the top of fish sticks, but you want those eggs, remember, as soon as the snatcher has all three of them and you take them out, they'll come down to the ground. And there's a couple sneaky egg throw spots here that you can do near the shoreline. So as it goes with spawning grounds, try to make sure that you're always outputting some form of damage onto bosses or lessers. Try to keep your movement fresh, stay focused, and try to make smart plays on this stage. Alright, let's get into the cookware. Our first cooking utensil is the N-Zap. The N-Zap has a really good trifecta of abilities. Its fire rate, damage, and range are all pretty good. With its really good coverage, you just need to keep an eye on how close your enemies are getting to you. And its ink usage isn't too bad either, which will allow you to use bombs a little easier. Our second cooking utensil is the Inkbrush. Since the Inkbrush has such a short range, if you're painting walls, it's a little helpful to jump off the wall and paint while you're going down to the ground. This method is also really solid for if you're going after a shoreline boss and you want to give yourself an exit. But remember how much mobility you have with this thing. You can get in, get out really quickly, both for taking out bosses and for reviving teammates. It's not the most useful weapon for bosses, so try to lean on the strengths of the Inkbrush. Our third cooking utensil is the H-3 Nozzlenose. For better paintability with its burst fire, it helps to strafe while you're firing. It's also a little bit easier with motion controls to get a little bit extra coverage out of this weapon. And with its range and damage output, this thing is a boss slayer. So if you have the H-3, try to make sure you focus on taking out those bosses and splat on those Cohawks. It only takes 2 bursts. Our last cooking utensil is the Hydra Splatling. The Hydra Splatling has a bit of a peculiar range curve. It doesn't have its max range until you have it at a half charge, which takes about 3 seconds to get to. So always try to make sure you have about 3 seconds until whatever is going to get to you gets to you. This weapon definitely has a weird technique to it, so always try to stay calm with it and think about what your movements are going to be. Once you find yourself on the run, it's hard to find yourself getting back to a spot where you can really deal that damage that this weapon has, and it is so needed. So you're going to need to be super defensive with this, so that way you can get this thing to a full charge. And remember that the fish fry usually comes out before the stage rotation, so if you want to catch these updates when they're hot and fresh, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. And if you want other Grizzco employees to receive these tips, make sure you like and share the video. Bye-bye!